I lived in a house with a huge poltergeist problem for 4 months when I was a teenager. Nothing was odd the first couple of weeks, but then once we settled in, it started. My mom worked most of the day since she had 2 jobs, and my dad was a truck driver, so most of the time it was just me and my 2-year-old brother in the house. It started with cold spots. I remember it was summer in South Texas, so it's hot as fuck, as it is every year in this region. The AC was on, but at a moderate temperature because mom got cold quick. Anyway, me and my little brother are hanging out in the living room, watching a kids movie, when the room starts to get super cold. Like, freezer cold. I thought I was going nuts because it had been fine literally just 1 minute ago, but my brother is also shivering and asking for a blanket. I give him one and I turn off the AC, and then sit back down on the couch. Then I notice it's so damn cold at this point, I can legit see my breath in the air. I walk outside the house real quick to smoke a cigarette. I started young, and it's fucking 90 outside. I started getting a bit freaked out at this point, so I walk back in to let my little brother play outside while the house warms back up again. I go inside the house and the temperature is just fine. Nothing cold at all. One morning, I woke up to the sound of a basketball bouncing in my little brother's room. My little brother was not in that room and very rarely was, as he slept in my parents' room. Nor was anyone else in the house except me and him for that matter. At this point, I'm just completely exhausted from being the only one that deals with this shit. As I said, my parents worked a lot, so I was alone for all of this 99% of the time while taking care of my little brother. So I carefully get up from my bed and walk slowly to the door. I hold on to the doorknob because I'm about to put my ear to the door, and if that motherfucker swings open and I see some weird shit or something, I will have a fucking heart attack. So I slowly put my head to the door and there it was, clear as fucking day. There was a ball bouncing up and down with deliberation in the room. I could even feel the vibrations in the door, as this was a fairly empty room, and it was the only room in the house with wood floor instead of tile, like the rest of it. I could not bring myself to open the door. My heart was pounding out of my chest, so instead I sprinted outside and looked in through the window. All I can see is the ball slowly rolling in the ground until it came to a stop. By now, I'm so fed up with all of this, I am begging my mom to quit her afternoon job so I won't have to deal with this shit alone all of the time. Even though they have experienced some weird shit themselves, they keep telling me that ghosts are not real. We need the money, blah blah, all that bullshit. Whatever. The day after the ball incident, I was sitting in the living room when things took a turn for the extreme when my little brother actually talked to whatever the fuck that entity was in the house. First and foremost, I'd like to apologize for the shit floor plan drawing. I don't have a computer in front of me, so I had to make it on my phone. But it is important to have a bit of a visual of the layout for the final 3 events that led me to leave the house and go and live with my grandparents. Anyways, I was sitting in the living room watching TV while little bro was running around the house and playing. Sun goes down and it gets dark inside the house, but I am lazy and I don't want to get up and turn on the lights. Little brother doesn't seem to mind, so fuck it. Anyway, I'm just sitting there minding my own business when suddenly I feel sick to my stomach. Not like nausea, but just a really bad gut feeling. Hard to explain, just extremely uncomfortable. The AC has been off all day because it's been a relatively nice temperature outside, so I kept it off. But suddenly, it starts getting extremely cold again. Like, I am shivering and getting goosebumps in the fucking house. I hear little bro still playing around in the rooms, and I can't see him from the living room. Something tells me to call him over. Just a strong feeling that he should not be in that darkness playing. So I call him over, but he says he's playing and he doesn't want to. So, of course, I tell him I'm in charge and to get his ass over here right now. At this point, the feeling in my stomach is unbearable, just pure dread and anxiety. So he finally does start walking towards the living room, and he stands in the corner between the living room and the dining room. In this corner, he can see me, and he can see the rest of the house in the pitch black darkness. When he turns to me, he is smiling, and then he turns to the dark side of the house and says, "Come here, I want to keep playing, come on." I lost it. I got up and sprinted towards him without looking in the darkness, picked him up, and took him outside the house. I told him to stay put, and I ran back inside the house to see if he was talking to someone that had broken in or something. So, armed with a shitty pocket knife and with my heart pounding in my chest, I ran back inside the house to see what the fuck my brother talked to. I turned on all the lights, room by room, looked in the closets, even mustered up the courage to look in the attic. I checked the back doors and all the windows, and nothing. Not a single thing that would point towards someone breaking in. I called the cops anyway, and told them what happened. They sent over 2 cops, and they swept the house completely, and the backyard as well, and they told me the same. No signs of forced entry at all. They gave me the usual speech of, kids have wild imaginations, blah blah. I really wanted to believe them, but I know it isn't what happened. They asked my little brother what he saw, and he just keeps saying my friend over and over again. The cops leave and my mom gets there. I tell her what happened and she just tells me the same. Just his imagination. I know that nobody will believe me, so I just call it a night. A couple of days went by with no activity at all, and I am finally having some semblance of normalcy in the house. No noises, no cold spots, no doors opening, nothing at all. Even my little brother never mentions his friend again. I'm a bit relieved, and take comfort in the thought that the whole ordeal may be over. That night I put him down to bed, and he knocks out right away. The dog jumps up on my parents' bed right next to my brother, as if saying, "Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on him." I go to my room to read some magazines and listen to some music while I get sleepy. The mags get boring and I put them down, and I just sit there staring at the ceiling. I zone out for a second when I realize the door to my room is wide open and I can see straight into the darkness, which I hate because, like I mentioned earlier, I do not like open doors. So I decide to get up and close it, except I didn't. For some reason, I just did not feel like getting up to close it, so I just changed the song on my MP3 player and laid there, which was, as I was gonna find out in about 10 seconds, a big mistake. I was laying there and for some reason, my gaze switched from the ceiling to the wide open door and into the darkness, and that is when it happened. A lady, a very old looking lady in a grey dress with grey hair, in a bun, legitimately and deliberately, floated right past my door, clear as day, headed for my parents' room. I was not sleeping. I was not high. I know what I saw that night, and if I was more artistic, I could draw her up in a second, because I will never forget her and every detail about her. In retrospect, the closest thing I can tell you she looked like for reference was the bad lady from the movie, Dead Silence, but more human and less demonic, if that makes sense. I was frozen in place in my bed. I could not move. I never understood what people experienced when they go into shock until that night. There is simply nothing you can do. Your brain is trying to process the impossibility of the situation so hard it cannot do anything else. When she passed by my door, the dog started barking again, so viciously and fiercely you would think he was fighting for his life. Then he yelped and sprinted out of that room so fast that he was basically a blur running past my door. I got up and out of bed and fucking ran to my parents' room filled with panic and with my heart about to explode in my chest. My brother was standing up in his crib and beginning to cry. He reached up for me. I picked him up, and I went to the neighbor's house and never set foot in that house again. My mom pleaded I come back, but I really, simply could not. I asked my grandparents to let me stay, and they were more than happy to accommodate me. My mom got daycare for my bro, and she quit her afternoon job to take care of him at night, since I refused, because I did not want to go back there ever. She stayed at the house by herself a couple of weeks until one night she suddenly pulled up to my grandparents' driveway and asked if she could stay over. She was clearly distressed, but she would not, and to this day, does not, talk about what happened that made her change her mind and leave the house herself. The next day she called into work and told them that she was taking her week of vacation and told me we were getting all of our stuff and putting it in a storage unit until we found a new apartment to live at. We would pack throughout the day and leave the house before sundown. Every day for a week, even though I would tell her we could get some more stuff done with the lights on, she would refuse to stay a second past sundown. We were done in about 4 days. She called the landlord. She paid him the last couple of months of the leaves, left over in advance, and told him that we were not coming back. The dude looked visibly disappointed, but understood, shook her hand, and we left for good. The next week we went to a family party at my uncle's house, and my stepdad was telling my uncle about what happened and why we left early. Some lady that was my aunt's friend was overhearing the conversation closely and asked if the house was the red house in Como Street, to which immediately replied with a resounding yes. She went on to tell us that she had lived there as well, except they only lasted 2 months and paid the 4 months left on the lease in advance to get the fuck out. She did not go into much detail because she was visibly upset just reminiscing about living there, but she told me, "I believe every single word of what you just described." I was at a loss for words. I knew in my heart that everything I had experienced was real, but ever since I left, I had tried to rationalize every single thing that I had experienced. I guess I just didn't want to believe it was all real, that this is real, and that it could happen again if I moved to the wrong house. But with third-party confirmation, it was very hard to deny or explain everything that had happened there, and she was not the only person that was going to confirm all of that activity in the house. About a month went by when another family moved in right away. The house was priced for a steal, so it never stayed in the market that long, and with only 6 months as a lease, it was a no-brainer. We went by about every month or so to collect random mail that was still getting delivered there. My mom got off the car and introduced herself to the lady and the guy unpacking their U-Haul. She did not stay long, got the mail, and we left. We did the same thing next month. I knocked on the door, she answered and gave me a smile, handed me the mail, and we took off. The next month we came by, and the U-Haul was packed up in the driveway, and they were packing in a hurry. I could not believe it. I walked up the driveway and asked her what happened. She was not, unlike the lady that had lived there before us, any shy about talking about the experience. She said that the chairs in the dining room would fly against the walls by themselves. The plates in the cupboards would fall down and shatter in the floor in the middle of the night. The phone would ring and they could hear themselves talking on the other side, as if someone was calling from the same house. Same thing that happened to us. She said her kids had seen something in the kitchen a couple of days ago, and that finally made them leave. She would not say what, but the little guys were so upset, they were just waiting for the grown-ups outside and would not go inside the house. I asked them what they saw, and they would just shake their heads. None of them would say. We moved to another place after a month or so. Then we moved out of the town, and I have not been back there for the better part of a decade or so. I looked up the house right now on Google Maps, but I don't know if it's still occupied or not, or if it's against the rules to post it, but I would never live there again, even if you paid me to. There's a lot of things out there that I simply cannot explain or understand, but that house made my skeptic ass a believer. I looked up the house on Google Street View right now, and seeing those 2 kids outside made me feel very sorry for them. I know why they don't want to hang out inside. This happened to me in the Catskill Mountains. It was the 90s to the 2000s. My grandfather owned a piece of property that was fairly isolated. Not so much that you couldn't drive somewhere, but walking was impossible. Until 1998, you couldn't get a landline out there, and he would only stay there in the summer, because winter was too isolated. I would walk an old trail, would come out to what was once a house, stone ruins, a stone platform overlooking the creek, and a simple 1-story chimney. Must have been a great house in its day. I was told the property belonged to an old lady, but house ruins were a mystery. I would during the summer walk there by myself to think and look at the waterfall. The trail went down to a hill. One time, I go as always down the hill. There is a woman sitting on the rocks by the falls. She is reading a magazine, wearing a sundress with a matching hat, big purse, and no shoes. I approach a little. She stands up slowly, puts away her magazine, and starts walking onto a trail on the other side of the creek. Initially, I want to follow, but I decide to nope out instead. Somehow, despite all my time there, before that I never got the urge to explore the other side of the creek. I eventually went up that way, and it came out to an old resort, but it was a quiet hike. I have a childhood memory that really remains in the back of my mind, and I'm not sure why. I was 9 years old when this happened. I was on holiday with my family and family friends. We are staying in a large holiday home next to a caravan park. We arrive around evening time. The sun is still out. It's March, so the caravan park is closed. The 6 of us kids, me, my older brother, my 2 cousins, and 2 family friends, get bored. We go to the caravan park to explore. Literal ghost town. We chat and duck and dive between caravans to hide from a security guard. Obviously, there was no one around, but we were just being imaginative. I suddenly get a gut-wrenching feeling in my stomach. I've always been a coward and a pussy and afraid of getting in trouble, but this feeling has me fucking petrified. I am completely blindsided by it. I tell the others we should get going. They laugh it off. I say I'm going to head back alone, which I have never done before when hanging out with them. I start to head back. Now, this is one of the things that throws me off. Every single detail of this memory, from the caravan park, the weather, the house we were staying in, I can remember it perfectly, but I cannot for the life of me remember anything about how I fucking got back to the house. It was maybe 5 minutes away by running, but I can't remember a single thing. It's just a blank gap. The memory only restarts with, I am sat in the downstairs bathroom in the house. My parents say I have returned. They ask where the others are. I say they're still out. They all head out to go shopping for food since we packed light. I am the only one home besides the pets. I stay in the bathroom. I suddenly hear a fucking pounding at the door. Other kids are shouting to be let in. They sound extremely panicked. They say they got chased by a security guard. Parents come back home from the store. Say they got a call from someone saying that the 6 of us kids needed to stay out of the park. Anticlimactic, but the feeling from needing to leave still fucking perplexes me. It was so strong, and I don't understand it. Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you, and back to the stories. This happened about 3 years ago on Christmas Eve. I was spending the evening with my side of the family with my husband. I am at my grandparents', my childhood home. I never really liked the place. I am there out of obligation. These people are not good people. Same passive-aggressive / slightly unnerving plastic behavior all night. Grandmother wants us to go upstairs to see the rooms, which have not changed since I lived there. People finally start going home. Grandmother is still pestering us to go check out the upstairs. Everyone is gone now except for my mother, my grandparents, my husband and I. Grandmother really wants us to head upstairs. Husband and I check out the upstairs alone. Everyone else stays downstairs. We are chatting as we go from room to room. Nothing changed much in any of them. I get to my grandfather's upstairs office. There is this overwhelming smell of decay. Not like grocery meat, but the distinct smell of a whole animal or body. Meat, innards, bowels, etc. Nothing small. Something at least medium dog-sized, judging from experience via friends into taxidermy. We continue conversation normally to not make a scene while we carefully look around. Nothing. Loading nope.exe. We head downstairs after our 2-minute tour, keeping casual as though nothing is wrong, still chatting, but I'm intent upon bringing up the smell. We immediately find all 3 of them, mom and grandparents, standing very quiet and very still, staring up the staircase. Remembering the look in their eyes, it almost looked as though they were trying to read us for something. It looked pretty damn malicious. I recall how badly my grandmother wanted us to go upstairs. All 3 of them go into immediate plastic mode, like nothing happened. I nope straight out of there. I never bring up the smell. That ended up being the last straw situation that finally drove me to cut off contact with them. I have not spoken to them since. This story happened to my grandfather, who is now 93 years old. But at the time he was 14 years old and living on a farm. He always told me the story, but I finally convinced him to detail it for me. When I was young, I lived with my family in the countryside on a farm near a small town. My father worked on the farm, planting coffee and other agricultural products at the time, and my brothers and I helped him with everyday tasks, such as taking care of the animals that we had on the farm, such as pigs, chickens, and horses. We also raised some cattle, and we had pure milk freely due to the many dairy cows that were there. Our farm also sold milk to help with the family income. At that time, there weren't numerous schools like today, and to study, We had to walk for about 8 kilometers to another place where a classroom was built, with the teacher traveling from the nearest town to give classes for children in our region. It was a hard life, but I missed that time. Well, it all started one morning when my father found an ox from his herd dead in the pasture. There was no sign of an animal attack, except that strangely, it did not have a drop of blood at all, and there were 2 small holes on the right side of his body, very round holes. My father found that strange, but he could not figure out what it was. A week or so later, my father found another ox dead under the same circumstances. The second ox, like the first, also had no blood in its body, and had the same type of holes as the first in its body. The place where the oxen was killed was near a large forest in the region. 2 nights after that happened, we woke up at dawn with our dogs barking angrily, as if there was someone close to our house. So my father, already worried about the death of the 2 oxen, took a rifle from our house and went outside with an oil lamp to have a look. My mom did not want him to go, but he left anyway. Minutes later, we heard 2 shots, and then my father came home scared. So, we asked him what he had shot, and he told us with wide eyes that he was near the pigsty, when in the nearby woods he heard a noise, so he lit it with the lamp, but he could not see clearly. Suddenly, in the moonlight, he saw in the woods a creature about 8 feet tall, walking upright, standing, and when it turned to my father's side, its eyes were red, as if they were lit, and that was when my father shot it and came home scared. We asked him if he hit the shot, and he said he did not know, but that we were supposed to go check it out in the morning because that thing should not be from this world. Needless to say, we were all scared of what my dad saw, especially from my dad who was not afraid of anything and was tall and strong. Early the next day, we all went out to see if there were any blood marks or traces where my father said he had seen the creature. We looked around and found no blood, but strangely, we found some footprints that we had never seen before. They were a type of 2-legged animal with 5 long fingers, looking like the marks of some kind of lizard, and they were heading towards the dense woods that were close to the site. Curious about what happened, my father went to talk to his neighbor and friend, Mr. John, telling him what had happened on our farm. My father asked if something similar had ever happened in his place. Mr. John told him that no, not like that, but that he had heard strange noises at night near his house, like a grunt, and the dogs were barking all night. It was then that my father invited Mr. John to go out on a hunt to get the creature that was prowling our lands. 2 days later, they set out to hunt the creature. I, very curious, wanted to go too, because I really wanted to know what it was. At first my father didn't want to, but he ended up letting me tag along. So, on the appointed day, early in the morning we left. Me, my father, my Uncle Bill, and our neighbor, Mr. John. So we started hunting that strange creature. My father carried a rifle. My uncle and Mr. John each carried a hunting pistol. I imagined what we might find along the way. We went into the forest looking for footprints, but found nothing. So when we arrived at the edge of a large lake that existed in the region, Mr. John called us to show us some different footprints he had found. They were very similar to the ones we found on our farm the night my father spotted and shot the creature, so my father said that the creature should be around. We then followed those strange tracks, but mysteriously, after about 300 feet, they disappeared. We were all amazed at the disappearance of the footprints, as the ground was soft in that patch of forest. We wondered how they could disappear like that. We walked for a few more hours and found no sign of the creature. Then we returned home. Arriving home, my mother, already worried, was waiting for us anxiously, asking if we had found something. My dad said no, but we'd look it up another time. Some time passed, until a few days later, when my father found another dead ox in his pasture, and by the signs of it, it had been killed in the same way as the previous ones. They were, as before, 2 holes and not a drop of blood in its body. My father was enraged by that and said it was too much, so he called Mr. John again and said they would go after the creature at night, as that was when it attacked. My mother, knowing that, did not want to let him go, but my father was stubborn. He said that it was decided, and that he was going to solve that problem because he did not want to see his animals dead anymore. So early in the evening the next day, we all got together and went after the strange creature that was attacking our cattle. As before, my father, Mr. John, and my uncle took their weapons. My father and Mr. John each carried a torch, and my uncle and I an oil lamp. We went into the forest and stayed in the nearest area. As he attacked at night, my father figured it should not be far. As we walked, we kept trying to look for tracks, but we did not find them due to the darkness and the little lighting we had available. Arriving in a clearing at a certain point in the forest, my father decided to take a break and build a fire. It must have been about 10 o'clock at night or so. So we stayed there talking for a while and always looking around. It was a night with a full moon, but with some clouds, with the moonlight illuminating the darkness of the night a little. I believe we stayed there for about an hour and a half, talking. After resting, we went back to walking and headed towards a small river that crossed that part of the forest. There we began to look for more traces, until in a certain part of the bank, my father called us to show us something. They were the same footprints we had seen before, and they were recent, so the creature should be around. We followed the footprints, which entered the forest, but as before, they mysteriously disappeared. My father was angry about that, as it was the second time we lost track of it, so he decided that we should go in the direction the footprints were going. We continued through the woods for a long time, until in a certain place we began to hear the sounds of the bushes moving and sticks breaking, as if someone or something was moving. It wasn't that close, but it indicated something. We headed in that direction where we had heard the noises. As we approached, the noise ceased, so we were looking around, looking for clues or something, but we did not see anything except Mr. John and my uncle, who found broken tree branches and crushed weeds, indicating that something had been there. My father then prepared his rifle, and the others drew their pistols. We stayed for a few minutes in that place in silence, looking for something or some sound that would draw our attention. Then a few minutes later, we heard a noise coming from the woods just ahead. We went there carefully. I was already in a cold sweat from all that dread that I felt at that moment. We went through the forest, along a very precarious type of trail that existed there. Ahead, there were many more trees than where we were, and the darkness was increasing due to the poor light from the moon. At that point in the woods, on the right side of the trail, we heard a noise of twigs breaking, and then a kind of grunt. I got goosebumps all over. We then slowly took a few more steps, very slowly and carefully, towards the sounds. It was when looking into the darkness of the forest with the help of torches and lamps, just a few feet ahead, that we saw it. His eyes were red, looking like lit fires. It looked like a type of two-legged lizard and was approximately 8 feet tall. His body looked like an alligator, only smoother, looking damp. Its hands or paws had huge claws, and its teeth looked like one of those dinosaurs from the movies, pointy and sharp. When we came across the creature, it stared at us and let out a roar so loud I was almost deaf. My dad and the others were helpless for a few seconds in fear. They were paralyzed. We all were. When my father managed to react and point the rifle at the creature, it turned and took a leap so big it looked like it had springs in its feet, disappearing into the woods. My father, my uncle, and Mr. John shot several times towards the creature, but they certainly missed, because with the speed that it disappeared, it would not be possible to hit it. We did not speak for a while, and I started to cry. It's a little embarrassing, but I could not help it. So my father immediately ordered us to go home, as according to him and his beliefs, it was not of this world. We quickly returned home, all panicked. The scene was so terrifying that even Mr. John spent the rest of the night at our home, afraid to return to his place, fearing he would run into that creature along the way. We told our mother what happened, and that she was appalled by the report. We all commented around the region about what happened, and some did not believe it, and others had the most diverse theories, saying that it could even be the devil that was in the forest. After a few weeks, another dead ox was found in our pasture, and some time later, another one on Mr. John's farm, but my father never wanted to go after the creature again. He just looked at what had happened and lowered his head, swaying from side to side. On other nights in the distance, we heard that same roar coming from the forest, and we wondered that it must be the strange creature that was there. A few months later, we did not hear anything else. No more dead animals and strange noises at night, so we figured the creature must have left, looking perhaps for another place to inhabit. My father and Mr. John avoided talking about what had happened. My uncle did the same. I believe I was the most affected by it all. I had nightmares for several months, and I panicked when I even got close to the forest. I always tell this story to anyone who wants to hear it, because it was something real that happened in my life, and I can't just erase it from my mind.